Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, and good night as well. I'm happy to be back again in front of all of you to narrate another chapter in Rukmini, The Turning of Time and Dawn of an Era. The chapter is chapter 28, which is titled as Echoes of War. Echoes of War. It rings bells in our all brains, right? And the current situation of the world, there is a real war that's going on, and but it is interesting fact that we are discussing about a Kurukshetra war. Echoes of war is regarding the Kurukshetra war that has happened long ago, millennia ago, and what are the factors that has driven to this war? What are the consequences of that war? And rest of 3 or 4 chapters, I guess. I mean, yeah, 2 to 3 chapters. It's all about war, war. The war here is the Kurukshetra war, and it's not regarding at any other war. We are discussing only about the Kurukshetra war that has happened in India millennia ago, in Dwapara Yuga, where the Lord Krishna was physically born and physically available in India. So that is the thing that we are discussing about. When we met last time, we discussed about the chapter called Betrayal. And what is that betrayal? How did this happen? Just let me give you a glimpse of that. Betrayal is nothing but it happened between Pandavas and Kauravas, and it also happened between the Senapati of Narayani army and Lord Krishna, because the Senapati of Narayani army, the Senapati means the in charge of the war, the army. He sold himself to Duryodhana, who is um, who is an enemy, who has taken a different turn against his own family. And this Senapati, Duryodhana has lured Senapati in all ways, because Narayani army, who lives in Dwaraka, is one of the strongest and most powerful armies in the whole Akhand Bharat at that point of time. But Senapati, Duryodhana was successful in luring Senapati to his side and not take Krishna's side, or in turn Pandava's side. And what are the consequences because of Senapati saying to yes to Duryodhana, or going towards Adharma side? We will see all that interesting facts in this chapter, Echoes of War. I mean, starting with this chapter, and it goes until next 2 to 3 chapters. But today we will be discussing about Echoes of War. What is Echoes of War? It rings bells. So in all the human brains, that there is a war coming up, right? The sounds of the war, the noise of the war, the consequences of the war. As soon as there is a war that is going on, everyone will feel scared, right? It is not only the winning or losing side. If a war happens, if a war is going on in this world, at any point of time, there is an equal loss on both the parties. Right? It's a collective mindset. There'll be a collective mindset that is operating on the higher level, and all the feelings of humans are being injected, are being bombarded into that collective framework, and that we are receiving the thought forms from that collective framework, right? The more hatred it builds onto that collective mindset, that is what the humans will be absorbing, and that's how the human brains are operated with. Now, what is that? What exactly does this statement means? Why does people get scared even though they are not part of the war? They are not affected by the war. How does that war affects the human brains? Is what I have experienced quite a bit of time, few days back. It is nothing but I was talking to a person, and I was actually without any reason, friends, without any reason, I was yelling at them and operating at a level of hatred without any reason. And suddenly, after that argument, I realized what has happened, what has come over me. I was questioning myself, and why did this all happen? Then I was meditating, and then I was able to realize that it is I am operating at the level of collective framework. That so does every one of us. It is not only me, so does every human being. Operates at the level of collective mindset, collective human brain mindset. I mean, human brains. So we are all from one consciousness, right? And we believe that fact. I believe that fact, and everyone believes that fact. There's only one single consciousness, and each and every human being have been manifested from that single consciousness. And we all have to accept the fact that there's only one single m- brain that has been manifested from the source, and we all will operate at that level of at that level of mindset. So we because we all belong to the one single collective consciousness, right? So in that collective consciousness, whenever these natural calamities or I mean wars or any certain things are going on at this in this world, we will most of the people will be receptive towards that collective consciousness. So what is currently there in that collective consciousness is the hatred, the suffering, the everything. It's individual levels, levels up to where they are up to on to receive that collective consciousness. So I might be operating at the level of hatred, but I might be operating at the level of other person might be operating at the level of suffering, sadness, angry, agony. So there's lots and lots of collective consciousness emotions that are being built up on the collective consciousness. That is why as soon as there is a war, people get scared because there is lots and lots of negative emotions that are operated at the level of collective consciousness. That's how even the people who are not directly part of that war will be operating at that level only. So that is called as that is the consequence, one of the consequences of war, even if they are fighting or not. That is why people get scared. Okay, stop the war, stop the war. But people do not encourage the war. That such was the thing happened in Kurukshetra. I'm talking about the Kurukshetra war. Such was the operation even at the time of Kurukshetra war about all the human. I mean, with all the human brains, they were operating with the collective consciousness, and you will be able to see that how Sujata have operated that. Um, at one particular instance, Sujata has been even operating at that collective consciousness. With the result of that collective consciousness, but she was also able to operate at the level of natural vibration, which is called as love. So, with all the things that is going on in and around us, is it possible for any human being to operate at the level of natural vibration called love? Is it possible? Friends, this is a direct question. Is it possible for any one of us to operate at the level of love when there is so much of negative emotions that is going on, hatred, if there's a war around us, if there's a war, there's a lot of death that we are able to see among us. Is it possible for any one of us to operate at the level of love, natural vibration? Is it possible? With the concept that I gave you, like from starting of this session, can you guys try to think to go above and beyond and operate at at the level of love? Is it possible? But whoever tries to think above and beyond and tries to operate at the level of natural vibration called love, That is the real state of human brain, friends. That is the real state of collective consciousness. That's what we need to receive on, be receptive of. And if our brain is more receptive towards that natural vibration, there is no way that we will be responsible for the consequences of war, for the consequences of anything, any negativity in this whole world. So it is not only one side, either Pandava side or Kurukshetra, Kaurava side, that people have to stand for. That people have to be receptive of. People have to be have to change their brain for every each and every person in both the parties. They have to operate or be receptive. They have to tune their frequencies or elevate their frequencies to go and above and beyond and be receptive to the natural state of vibration. if they are if there's more hatred that is being built up in that collective consciousness, that's why the war, the wars and natural calamities and all this stuff happens. And it is not the nature that is against to us, it is we the human brains that are against to us, friends. Think this in one way, in this way. uh, uh, if, for example, there's a situation in our family that's going on from years and years, that's spinning our heart, that's paining our heart, and you know that's building lots and lots of frustration in our heart. At some point of time it has to burst, right? It has to burst. But if my brain is operating at the level, or being receptive at the level of that frustration, or most tending towards that negative emotions, I will somehow burst at some point of time, and be the reason to actually initiate lots and lots of disaster thing in my family. But if I try to understand the situation and try to operate at the level of natural vibration called love, then I will discard whatever that is important, I will consider, and whatever that is not important, I will be discarding that. So it's all our decision. It's all our decision. If I get frustrated for it, eventually my family will get frustrated. My family is the immediate one who will be responsible, or they'll be receiving that frustration levels and everything, right? So we are all responsible, and there'll be more and more arguments, and we are all responsible for that disaster to happen. And we are operating at the level of family's consciousness. Now once we operate at the level of family consciousness, there'll be a lot of people in and around us who will be receiving those results too, because they interact with us, right? They live among us, they live around us. So such is the way in any part of the world. And it is Kurukshetra. This Kurukshetra war happened because one and only one reason. It's because of the jealousy and ego. This jealousy and ego, if it reaches its capacity, then that's the result of the war. Then that will only result the war. And we just have to observe how much jealousy and ego we are building with. If that reaches its capacity, then it's responsibility of the human brain to think and observe its limits of tending towards that negative emotions. The only result of that negative emotions, the building up in our brains, is the ultimate war. If one people is thinking like that, if Duryodhana is so jealous about Pandavas, if Duryodhana has a lot lots and lots of ego build on his brain, then he will not sit calm, right? He will definitely discuss that emotions and everything. He will that definitely pass that emotions and everything to his brothers at least, right? First brother, second brother, third brother, and then his family and everyone. Okay, and there will be lot of things that will be added up to Duryodhana's ego and jealousy to yeah, to ego. There'll be a lot of things that will be added. So if I am having one thought of negativity, like jealousy and ego, my if I share it with other people, they'll be adding their own view of jealousy and ego to that, right? And that will only intensify all my negative emotions. And I was carefully thinking why these negative emotions have taken to such a heights during Kurukshetra. It is not a one day thing, right? Right from their birth, right from their childhood, like Kauravas and Pandavas were fighting over each other, and the elders were not able to control their negative emotions that was building with each other. uh, I mean, no one could peer into the human brains, into others' brains, and see what's going on, right? But Duryodhana was not able to control his emotions, not able to operate with a natural vibration of love at all. If he would have thought, if he would have considered anything that about the consequences of war, he wouldn't have gone to it. He just cared for his um, own own negative emotions. Like he has that ego and jealousy. He wants to prove his ego. He wants to prove that he's great. He has that other. He took it for granted. He took everything for granted, that to showcase that he is the greatest one in this whole world. So that is why he went on to the war against Pandavas. And Pandavas, they can't sit idle. They can't sit idle, and they tried all the ways. Even the Lord himself, Lord Sri Krishna himself, came down. I would say, ask him as what, and then what is the responsibility? I mean, what is the reason for Sri Krishna to come and convince Duryodhana, right? Um, why would he have to come? He have to come down, and then he has to he has to convince the people, like from Kaurava's side. He has to convince the people, right? And then what did Duryodhana do when he came down to convince him? Not considering about the mediator rules. Like for example, in good olden days, whenever the people have come to mediate between themselves, or between both the parties, they would that those people wouldn't cause any harm to those mediators. That was the rule. But even not in the good olden days, even now we follow those rules. That's called dharma. Dharma is the foundation for all the human actions. If we do not operate at the level of dharma, whatever we are thinking, we are implementing, we are acting, right? If we just define it to the basis of dharma definition, then we would definitely understand what's going on. Are we doing it right? Are we doing it wrong? We could definitely think about that. We could justify based on the dharma guidelines. And what did Duryodhana do? He tried to imprison Sri Krishna, and then he revealed his form. Sri Krishna revealed his form, his original form of this revealing his. He himself is the ultimate consciousness, right? And he revealed that ultimate consciousness appearance in front of everyone, and that is none other than the Savatara appearance. So when he revealed that, even then he couldn't. That I don't know what blindfolded Duryodhana, when people around him are telling him that the Lord himself is not on your side. what is the importance of other people in and around him staying on his side when the truth is not on your side, when the right things are not on your side, and there's only this attractions in this whole world that are on his side. What could he do with them? I would just call it as a blindfold thing. Blindfolded, Duryodhana was just literally blindfolded by the fake news or the truth that he would win the war. There are few reasons why Duryodhana went into war. He saw Bhishma, Dronacharya, Karna, and then Narayani army. Four prominent reasons. I wouldn't say that these are only the reasons, but these are the four reasons. And if either one, Bhishma, he has a wish, a boon of dying. Dying in his own pace. Like if he wants to die now, he can die now. If he wants to live like millennia after, till millennia later, he can live. So Icha Maran, it's called in Hindi it is called as Icha Maran. So whenever he wants to die, he can die. And Dronacharya, being the teacher, warrior, guru of entire warriors, he himself is on his side. And then Karna, this guy is literally, you know, I would call him as a joker, because there are many things, many films or many passages or many frames in this whole world saying that Karna is very good, very good. He might be good at some things, friends, but he is one of the reason who actually encouraged Duryodhana to go into the war. So I don't know why Duryodhana was so receptive towards Karna's words. Bhishma, Drona, everyone having a bad friend by our side will only defame us, defigure us. We couldn't think at our own consciousness level, right? We will only think on with others consciousness. Like for example, Karna used to say that okay, go to the war. I am by your side. Arjuna, I can defeat Arjuna just like that. It's just a matter of 1 hour for me to just defeat Arjuna. And finally, what happened after Kurukshetra war? Who is he? He is one of the Pandavas. He knows that he is one of the Pandavas even before the war, but he couldn't you know all the things. It is his own ego and his own jealousy that is building on him from years and years ago. So all these egos and jealousy have been combined to a collective consciousness, and that has been released in the Kurukshetra war. Friends, if the war happens, it's not winning or losing anymore. Even the winners loses. Even the losers wins. We never know what happens. You know, we never know. But I could say this much: there is a lot. There will be, because of the war, there will be lots and lots of suffering, lots and lots of hatred, and lots and lots of radiation that will be emitted. I mean, when something when a missile or anything bombards us, it's just a matter of fact about the death, but the consequences after the death, you know that is the real pain, real consequence of a war. Once the death happens, there's one situation in Kurukshetra war that a king called Abhimanyu, who is Arjuna's son, he fought very brave, and everyone surrounded him and have beaten him to death. And that particular death has made his own army, like Narayani army, to turn against towards Kauravas. And we'll be discussing about this in further chapter. But since I'm talking about war and deaths and consequences and suffering to after the deaths, I'm just giving you a glimpse of that. So it might cause, these deaths might cause our own people against us. That is the result of war. We never know which turn will it take to. Okay, do not try to instigate, provoke any war, is what the echoes of war means, or is what the lessons from Kurukshetra means. It is what the consequences of Kurukshetra that have taught us. So, with that being said, let's go deep into this echoes of war. Until the last chapter, um, uh, Sujata, she was overwhelmed with the love that was being shared by, or shared or um, emitted by Sri Krishna and Rukmini Mata. So, when fear creeps into the unwatchful and uncontrolled mind, we will quickly lose faith and love. It is very easy for all of us to come back. I mean, I wouldn't say it as come back, it's just as falling down from that highest vibration of love to normal vibrations or negative vibrations. Such is the weightage weightage of the negative emotions, because our mind is uncontrollable. Today, this minute, I am operating with love, and next minute, when someone comes and yells at me, suddenly, and then I will be more reactive towards that. My brain or my heart will be more reactive towards that negative vibration. And if I am not vibrating at that level of I'm not tending or receptive towards that negative vibration, and trying to maintain my own vibration, that's called natural vibration of love. Then there you go, you are successful person. That's how the human brain should be. That's how we are being manifested from. That's how our collective consciousness is operating from. We have to think beyond that. So never lose your natural state of vibration, friends. That's where you have to operate from. When you operate it from that level, there's no way that pe- you you cannot be distracted. You will achieve your purpose. And and what is the purpose of yourself in this lifetime? You just have to think, is it that you're trending towards, is it that you're allowing your uncontrolled mind, or I wouldn't say it as uncontrolled mind. Mind is always uncontrollable, and it's always fluctuating. So, is it that your mind should be receptive towards that negative emotions, or is your mind you is your mind clean, is like a clean slate operating at the level of consciousness, at the level of natural vibration called love? That I leave up to you. So, what happened was there was heavy rains, and the whole Dwaraka, and of course everyone in Akhand Bharat were waiting for the rains to fly by. And then as the rains, I think that monsoon, there were a lot of rains, because even nature doesn't wanted the war to happen. That is why within its own scope, the monsoon seasons extended, because there was heavy downfall of rains, and that postponed war a bit. And after that monsoon seasons, there was a dialogue that was requested by Hastinapur, because Bhishma and everyone, they always encouraged Duryodhana to go and apologize Sri Krishna, because he tried to imprison Sri Krishna for being for coming in and mediating. And you know, I do not know what to call that act. It I couldn't even frame it as a treason, friends, because when a person comes to you and wants to talk to you regarding as a well-wisher, if you try to imprison him, or in our just modern in our modern days just try to call the cops that he's disturbing you, then what kind of mentality is that? I wouldn't. It's more than a treason, right? So, and there's a lot of fury in all the men's hearts, that there are some people who are actually wishing for the war, there are some people who do not want the war, and there's some people who are like, do whatever you want to do, please do not involve me. And they don't take the sides. And I would say that either wrong, it's only a right or wrong in this world. But even I wouldn't blame on others too, but there'll be situations in our life too where we have to travel in the middle path. I mean, that we will have to carefully choose. Yeah, so it depends on what the human brains select, humans select, or the people select. And there will definitely be a karma added to your selection, friends. It's just that you cannot escape. Even if you are on a middle path, you do not think that the karma wouldn't accumulate to your actions. A middle path has karma too. It will be accumulated towards your karma. Middle path, right path, and wrong path. Everything. Karma is the reason why we take births on this earth. This is the reason why we are all on this earth. Everything has a karma tied towards it. If you are bold enough and brave enough to deal with that karma, then step into the things that you have decided. If you are not ready to deal with the karma and you wanted to neutralize it, take the right path. Right path is called the dharma path. Then that's the best option for all of you, all of us, including me, to choose the right path, to not accumulate the karma, a negative karma, by the way. So, um, I mean, Krishna was always blamed for the partiality of the towards the Pandavas, and again, of course, this is also a blame game on themselves. Krishna tried to come and talk to everyone. Right, and of course, whenever there's a right thing that is happening, people kind of support towards them, and elders try to support towards the right people, right? And you yourself, Duryodhana is doing, committing some sins and wrong. He is doing some wrong things, and he can't expect everyone to support him because he has the jealousy and ego. Everyone cannot favor him to support that jealousy and ego, right? So even he can't ask Lord Sri Krishna to support him, leaving Pandavas who are on Dharma side. So what happened was that Duryodhana requested an audience, but that has to be postponed until the monsoon seasons are let up. And now that the weather has cleared up, both Duryodhana and Arjuna were in Dwaraka seeking an audience with Sri Krishna. And what is that audience? It's a personal meeting, it's an official meeting um, to exchange the thoughts, or to grab Sri Krishna on their side. Now he knows, they both were in Hastinapur, sorry, Dwaraka, and Sri Krishna knows they were here. And they asked, Sri Krishna asked the people to let both of them in at the same time. So what happened was, this references I am taking from Rukmini, The Turning of Time and Dawn of an Era. There are different depictions or narrations to this situation, but I am able to narrate it from this book. So he led them in, and then they were seated in front of his eyes. I mean, Sri Krishna himself, and then he first asked Arjuna, "Okay, Arjuna, now tell me, what do you want?" There are two options, Arjuna. One is, you can choose me as your well wisher. If you choose me as your well wisher or be your side, if you choose me to be your side, then there's one condition: I will not raise a weapon. I will not touch any weapon with my hand. That is the consequence of choosing me. I will not touch anything with my hand. I will not kill anyone. I will not participate directly in this war, but I'll be on your side if you choose me. That is one option. And the second option is the Narayani army. You can choose entire Narayani army, but I will not be part of that Narayani army. You can choose entire Narayani army to yourself. What do you want? And what would Arjuna definitely choose? He chose that, Krishna, you are my whole everything. There are no words to describe his love towards Krishna. You are my well wisher. You are my everything to me. I do not need anyone. Just be my side. I only need you, is what Arjuna asked for. And then there was a huge smile. There was someone sitting in the same room smiling across. You know, he immediately got relieved. Okay, Sri Krishna, he thought that Sri Krishna is of no value. And because he opted not to touch any weapon, he opted not to fight, he opted not to participate directly in the war. And what kind what else is the use of Sri Krishna? you know that's what these things are running in Duryodhana's brain. Now, in Duryodhana, what did he choose? There was a huge smile, and Sri Krishna asked him what he valued, and he immediately chose Narayani army. And he also gave third option: if both of you choose me as on your side, then we can leave Narayani army. We can spare Narayani army from this unfortunate situation. So he also thought about Narayani army, that because that is his own army, and everyone, there are many people who are in Narayani army. Of course, the Senapati is the one who gave the word, but there are lots and lots of people who are bound towards Sri Krishna's love. you know he also thought about them and also encouraged Arjuna and Duryodhana to to spare Narayani army from this conflict, because that's not their war. It's not Narayani army's war. It is Hastinapur's war. you know it's a fighting between the brothers, Kauravas and Pandavas. If Narayani army is supporting on the wrong side, you know, that will only make the situations worse. And there are many, many people in Narayani army who are, you know, who are who are not responsible for the situations, for anything that's going on in Hastinapur. But why would they be dragged into this conflict? Why should they be dragged into this conflict? That was the thoughts that was running in Sri Krishna's brain. And but it is because of Senapati's greediness, Senapati's unwanted jealousy and unwanted ego. Senapati of Narayani army, Narayani army back in Dwaraka, unwanted greediness, unwanted jealousy that has built up and piled up and made all the Narayani army suffer because of his greediness and ego that has built up. And this is a wake up call for future generations uh, to see who will be sitting as an in charge of an army. And because he or she who is in charge of that Narayani army, or any clans within the Kurukshetra or Akhand Bharat, they were sitting on the top throne and deciding or getting lured towards the negativity that will only make their own people suffer for not choosing the right side and forgetting, or I would say that is called as a fallen beings. You know, we shouldn't get synced into further darkness, friends. I mean, it's about the Senapati that I'm talking about. He shouldn't sink into the darkness further and sink all the people. He is responsible for entire army, entire strongest army in Akhanda Bharat. You know who trained that army? It's Balarama and Sri Krishna. The god Lord itself have trained that army. It's not the Senapati's and capability or capacity that Narayani army uh, you know got this name and fame. It is not because of Senapati or anyone in this Narayani army, because Sri Krishna and Balarama, they are the highest beings itself. They are the ultimate consciousness itself. They have come down and trained their army to the best of their knowledge, to the best, not the best of the knowledge, to the best, because they are the best. So no one tended to notice this. And of course there was war. And it's a human brain. Human brains are human brains as always. It We are dealing with uncontrollable mind, and we are operating at the level of collective consciousness, which is covered with full of hatred, jealous, ego as a main negative emotions, with main emotions. So, Sri Krishna, Arjuna responded that he didn't care for loss or gain, only to have presence and counsel of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna had smiled and then turned to Duryodhana, saying gently that if he also chose his counsel, then the Nara council and the Narayani army would be spared the battle. But Duryodhana immediately replied that he would certainly take the army, as it was known to have the most skilled warriors in all of Bharat. He doesn't have a single thought of stopping the war. You know, he doesn't have a single thought of stopping the war. It is either surrender. He has to see Pandava's death, dying. He has to see Pandava's suffering. That is the ultimate goal of Duryodhana. He doesn't have a single thought, not even a single point of thought. He didn't even try to, you know, eradicate this war. And what kind of brain was his, we never know. And he also says this with proudness, saying that with your army on my side, my victory is assured. uh, with your army on my side. He is not thinking. Instead, he could have asked Sri Krishna, be on my side, right? Then that would have been a different case. But he said that he was proudly saying that with your army on my side, my victory is assured. Come on. Interesting facts. And that's how people operate. That's how people talk when they are too much proud of their abilities. That over proudness or overconfidence is not required by for any one of us. That doesn't do any good for us. um So, what happens was Sri Krishna said that you see partiality where there is none. My love flows equally to all, but there are some who are able to receive it and others who cannot. Then, which means that if we are not able to receive the love that is spread across equally by that ultimate consciousness, then we are not elevating our vibrations, friend. We are not at that level of vibration. Now, it is not the you know not the problem of the higher consciousness to spread the love. It's a problem of the operation that we are vibrating at. It is the natural emotions, it is that is covering up us on us, and then masking us to receive that, to be receptive towards that love. And Krishna says these words, Duryodhana, I know that you have already won the Senapati to your side, and so he must bear responsibility for the outcome, just as you will. I have extended every effort to resolve this conflict, but if in the end you choose war, I will make sure that this war brings about an end to the vast destructive powers that will be unleashed. Mark these words, Duryodhana. This will, I'll read that statement again. I have extended every effort to resolve this conflict. But if in the end you choose war, I will make sure that this war brings about an end to the vast destructive powers that will be unleashed, which means the Lord Himself, Sri Krishna Himself, is saying that wars only make things worse. There's nothing good that's going on, that's going to happen because of the wars. There are massive destructive powers that are still standing on this earth that will be unleashed. I will make sure to put an end to this vast destructive powers, is what the words from Sri Krishna have come out. And we will see in further chapters how this has been achieved. But these are the statements by Lord Himself about the wars, and we have to carefully observe what we are doing during this. What Sri Krishna was trying to tell to us. So Abhishek finished what all narrating, what all has happened, what all has happened between uh, Arjuna's Duryodhana and Sri Krishna, and what is the outcome of that dialogue. And Sujata immediately rose and said that she has to see Mata. Surely she could stop approaching this madness. This is relentlessly, this is literally a madness. Brothers are fighting with each other. I mean, everyone is seeking, both the parties are trying to get their own allies, attract people towards them. And then this Narayani army, who is already the strongest army and stood for truth in the entire Akhand Bharat, has to face this destructive powers, suffer the consequences of this, because this the in charge of this army has been lured on the wrong side. This is a madness. Why were this Narayani army going into the conflict of Kauravas and Pandavas? Either you could counsel them, you could counsel them, you could try other ways to resolve that conflict, right? You are going and taking one side turns. I'm talking about Narayani army is trying to take the side of Duryodhana, and then it provoked the war again. So yeah, Sujata says that she could stop this madness. Mata should surely stop this madness, and she immediately hurried towards this women's quarters. And when she arrived to the women's quarters, Sumati was busy helping some of the women gather their belongings. They seemed to be leaving. Seeing me, she explained quietly that Mata had instructed all Kshatriya women to return home, saying their families would now need them. And Mata, she knows everything. She is the all knowing being too. Why couldn't she know that? She will definitely, for sure, know that. So, and then Sujata understood that this war is inevitable. It is inevitable, friends, because this is madness, and madness has taken to its peaks. And no one couldn't actually bring that madness down, even Mata or Sri Krishna. They tried every way that they could to bring this madness down. But if people are not listening, and then trying to take their own turns, then, trying to reach to operate at that madness level, then who else can save them? Right? They couldn't save. It's not Mata's job or Sri Krishna's job to fine tune our brain. It is we who are responsible to fine tune our brain. It is we who has to carefully watch. Otherwise, why are we here, friends? Why are we here? if someone else comes and tries to lure, um, uh, I mean, act in front instead of us, then what is the responsibility of it? What is the reason that why we exist here? It's our own brain that needs to act and think, right? So, and then she definitely wants to see Mata, and she didn't expect to see Mata, but yet Mata was available there talking to another lady, and she waited in patience to talk to Mata. And after that, she motioned, Mata taking a look at her, she motioned her to come to her, and then carefully folding her hands in pranam, she looked at her. Who? Sujata. Sujata looked at her and just whispered, Mata, assuming she would say something about the impending war, why it could not be prevented. Sujata's face must have really revealed her distress because she put her hands over mine and gently spoke. Sujata, you have made a peace with one mother. I am glad you have overcome those feelings of rejection from the past. Now, I want you to make peace with another, with your mother in this life. You must promise me that when the two of you meet, you will not reject her, but will open your heart to her so that neither she nor you will carry this hurt into the future. What? What's going on? So, Sujata came here to know more about war. Is there a way that she can be helpful or anything that can stop this madness? But instead, what was Rukmini Mata trying to tell her? She was telling her that she already made peace with one of her mother from past, which is nothing, who is none other than Menaka, her sister-in-law in current life. She was a mother to her in past life where she had a, you know, she they both, that relationship had a feeling of hurt, at that point of time, and they carried to that, she carried to that, she carried that into this future and couldn't try to make peace with that relationship. And now eventually they were able to make some progress in their relationship, and then that didn't matter anymore between that relationship. But there was another mother in this current lifetime. Her name was, I forgot her name, but her current mother left them, and she flew away because of the harassment she was facing in that particular community. And she was always suspective, and she always hated her mother for doing that and flying away. But yet, Sujata, Mata was telling her that you should make peace with your own mother in this life, and so that you do not carry her, that hatred feelings into future life. So if you do not bring a relationship into complete in one lifetime, that will take, you definitely will carry that hatred or hurt feelings into future friends. It is responsibility of our human brains to bring every relationship around us to a complete. And we are at a, now what is happening was, what was Sujata thinking? She didn't know what to say. We were on the verge of war, and here she was speaking of my relationship with my mother. Mm, I and you know what? See how the higher celestial beings operate at which level. This is what I was speaking, friends. Mata always operates at the level of natural vibration. That's why she could see things clearly. It is also an easy thing, not the easy thing, but when any human being also operate at the level of natural vibration, then it is possible to see things very clearly, and talk to people very freely with a clear state and clean state of mind. So that's why I always emphasize, and Mata always emphasizes in this book, that you should operate at the level of natural vibration. Always try to maintain that steady state of natural vibration throughout, minute by minute in your lifetime. The sadhana of your daily day to day life will help through to achieve this. That is why I always emphasize, and people always emphasize in and around us, to have a consistency in our meditation practice. It is not just like you do it one day, knowing the knowledge and then keeping that in your brains. You have to implement that knowledge. To implement that knowledge, we have to have a rightful meditation sadhana that's going on daily in our life. It should be consistent. You cannot escape it. If you have a breaks, then definitely you will have the negative emotions will get piled up, and you will deal with that. You will operate at that level only. If you have to elevate that natural vibration of love, or try to overcome that negative emotions, then you definitely have to operate at, I mean, there should be a consistency in your sadhana, meditation sadhana. Okay. Love is the only antidote to fear, anger, and resentment. Once you have a taste of that divine love, nothing else will truly satisfy you. You may temporarily get lost in the demands of the external world, but if you remember that internal experience, you will be spared much suffering. So, that is the reason why people always try to emphasize on operating at the level of love. Love is only the antidote to fear, anger, resentment, ego, jealous, anything. Okay. So, and then she left women's quarters, and then she went back to their home, and then Menaka was eagerly waiting for Sujata to come back. And then Menaka was asking her, did Mata tell you anything, any future, anything that could be done to hold this war? Come on, tell me. Because Menaka's husband Abhishek, and the very own Sujata's brother, is going to the war. He cannot be spared to go to the war, whereas Sujata was telling Abhishek that you could obviously discard, ignore going to the war, right? And Mata assured that Abhishek will live to see the end of the war. And that much she could say, and that much news she could bring back home. And that is what she told Menaka too. But I mean, it's not only Abhishek, right? There are millions and millions of people who are going and fighting in the war unnecessarily. And what about all of them? That's what Menaka questioned. And then Menaka asked him, and then they were arguing between each other. Menaka was telling that it is an honor of a warrior. In good olden days, there is this rule called dharma. Dharma. They think it as a dharma, but I would say that dharma takes its own turns. Dharma will be modified according to the changing ages. The reality is reality, friends, but you cannot deny that reality. But you know and it will take a slight deviation according to this changing worlds. Now, if there is a Kurukshetra war that is happening, and then if Abhishek wants to ignore, I mean, the soldiers at that point of time considered that as pride, to go into the war and die in the war, whatever that war is. Whatever that we see in a lot of movies, right? To go in the war and then die in that war is considered as a pride. Fighting in that war and dying is considered as a pride, even if it's a wrong war or a right war. Going into the war and dying is the right thing, is what was considered by Kurukshetra's, I mean, soldiers that fought in Kurukshetra. And I mean, we have seen lots of wars in our ancient times too, that soldiers were considering that as a dignity for themselves. But if people like Abhishek have turned against to Senapati, saying that this is not our war, this is not our war, Senapati, this is not our war. You have been lured onto the wrong side, and you're making all of us suffer. You're losing the dignity of the war. You're losing the dignity of Narayani army. Now, what should you do? People like Abhishek who have said should have said no to his own leader, but they couldn't, because it is his leader who is actually encouraging him. And Abhishek himself has been bound to that um, you know um, yeah, bound to that Senapati's word, because Senapati's Narani army Senapati saved Abhishek in couple of times from death. So he was actually bound to Senapati's words. Whatever he gives words, so he has to stand by. Abhishek has to stand by. Abhishek is one of the skillful warrior in this whole Narayani army. So Duryodhana depended on Senapati, and Senapati depended on a lot of skillful warriors like Abhishek. And Abhishek is one of the prominent and well trained and skillful warrior in Narayani army. So I mean, there are many loopholes, even from the side of Abhishek too. Why he cannot say no? Why he can say no, or he cannot say no um, to the war? you know and I was actually trying to understand the mindset of Abhishek here, and then was reading some other books, and how the human brain is so much tied towards the rules. That's where the modern book of Dena Merriam have come into existence, that is called the Sita the Yogi, friends. It's a wonderful book. I didn't yet have a chance to read that because I'm currently reading other books. I'll have to finish that, and then that will be my next book. So in it, Dina Miriam says that uh, there's a rightful way of understanding dharma, rightful way of executing dharma. We just have to understand what the reality or the ground reality is. It is not just you just follow the sheep herd based on the word called dharma. You just have to understand the essence of dharma. Then only you have to operate it with. So that's called Sita the Yogi book. So yeah, that's in my to-do list, friends. But if you have a chance, try to read that book too, Sita the Yogi. And and also they were struggling hard and to understand Abhishek's situation in that war. And then Abhishek stood up and said that you ladies, please be quiet. You do not argue between yourself to about me. I will see what I have to do. And then he left out. And then Sri Krishna himself, I mean Sujata, asked him, Abhishek, Sri Krishna took you aside on Ishan's wedding night and told you something, right? Can you tell me what that is what Sujata asked him. Then Abhishek told him that each person, I mean, Sri Krishna told Abhishek that each person should fulfill his duty without concern for the outcome. So each person has to execute their own duties to without any concern for the outcome. I am the part of Narayani army, and if it is decreed that we must fight on the side of Duryodhana, then it is my duty to do so. I have suspected a secret alliance between the Senapati and Duryodhana, so this is not such a surprise. So that's what Abhishek told, and this is Sri Krishna told Abhishek during that week. I mean Ishan's wedding, that one must know when to fight and when to withdraw. Then, after a pause, he added, let Dharma be your guide. So he also says that Dharma be your guide, even if you go to war. And on the other level, on the higher level, what is Sri Krishna trying to achieve? If these people do not stand by them, by Senapati side or Duryodhana side, he will not go to war, right? Because they themselves are not capable. They want huge army to go to the war. In fact, people on the side of Kauravas were more in number than on the side of Pandavas. But the intelligence, the brains, the mastermind behind the war, is Sri Krishna. He himself is on the Pandava side. So it number doesn't matter. The intellect and intelligence matters. So even if you go to the war, do know when to withdraw. If you withdraw at the right time, then dharma will be your, I mean, that's when That's when you will live, or people like you will live. Let dharma be your guide. Then if dharma has to be his guide, what does he have to operate at with? He has to be receptive to those things that are flooding to his heart. Then it's he has unconditional and love towards Krishna. So in even during the mid of the war, at the peaks of the war, he has to receive those, he has to be receptive, his heart and brain has to be receptive to the thought forms that Sri Krishna sent. There's no direct communication or phone communications like this. You just call them and then bug them, right? It's just the human brain's receptiveness that thought forms that will be communicated through. So how difficult how difficult was that in the midst of so much uncertainty? Will Abhishek be receptive to that thought forms, or what is that? But we all have to highlight or emphasize that important thing, saying that last words of Sri Krishna say, it is nothing but let dharma be your guide. Even if you do not receive, if you even if you were not able to be in a receptive mode of receiving my thought forms, let dharma be your guide. That is why dharma is available on this earth, friends. It is even if we are not able to vibrate at the level of natural vibration, that's where dharma comes into the role. You have to follow the dharma guidelines. If this is dharma, if this is the right way of doing things, wrong way, right way of not a right way of doing things, then you have to analyze that. And that's why dharma is available still. Dharma still exists in this world. With that being said, Sri Krishna and Arjuna on one side, and on other, my most precious brother. These are the thoughts that are fluctuating between, in Sujata's brain. With that being said, we will put an end to this chapter, which is titled as Echoes of War. And next chapter, we will be discussing about chapter 29, one titled as One Death Among Many, which means Kurukshetra war happened. They went to the war, and if there's a war, definitely there will be one death among many. And what is that, and how did this happen? We will look into it in next chapter, next session. Thank you, friends. Thank you all.